Good evening. How's everybody doing on this, what is a beautiful evening? Tonight we've had some particularly bad weather over the last couple of weeks or so, but it's turned out for the good today. It's much nicer now, which is great, which is absolutely great. In fact, it's so warm that I'm in the conservatory. I've got a fan on to keep me nice and cool, and some water next to me. But I hope the weather's good with you all wherever you are. So where are people tuning in from today? I can see Nick's on. Nick is based out in the States. Hi Paul. Hi Nick, and I look forward to speaking to you in a very short while, Nick. Based in Wales. What's the weather like in Wales? North Yorkshire, Costerdale, Peterborough. What's the weather like in Costerdale, Peterborough then? Is it good? Sunny California, fantastic. It's hot in Wales, great, yes, absolutely roasting here. Hi Margaret. Another person from California, and Nick, I know you're Wales too. We seem to be blessed with good weather over 2020. There's been a lot of challenges, as we all know, this year, but the weather hasn't been too bad. Thunder in Yorkshire, oh dear. We had that a little bit this morning. It was awful this morning. It really rained quite badly. So, sunny in the Wirral. It absolutely is sunny in the Wirral. It's particularly warm. So last week we had a fantastic live, I thought, with John and with Ellie, and Ellie's on this watching this week, which is great. We had some tremendous feedback from listening to John as part of, well, as Ellie's dad and a significant part of Ellie's A-team, and it was wonderful as well to hear from Ellie. And yeah, as I say, the feedback that we've received and the feedback about how inspirational Ellie has been remarkable. So thank you to everybody that tuned in last week, and I'm sure this week you'll get just as much from listening to our live guest. Now, some of you may or may not know, but this month is Aphasia Awareness Month. Before I had my stroke, I knew, if I'm honest, I knew nothing about aphasia. I'm a very fortunate person that I don't suffer with it. But our guest this evening does. And our guest this evening is a gentleman by the name of Nick. Nick is a stroke survivor, a fundraising champion, and somebody that lives with aphasia. And Nick's going to be joined this evening with his wife, Jo, and I'm delighted that they've agreed to come on this week's live session. Next week's live guest is our first international guest. She comes all the way from the USA, and an occupational therapist. So I'm going to look forward to having a chat with Jane next week. But as I say, no further ado, let's bring Nick into this session with his wife Jo. So I'm just going through the process of bringing them in. Here we go. Hopefully you'll be here any second. It just says waiting for Nick to join.
Yep.
There we go.
Hello.
How are you both? It does look sunny where you are.
It's very bright, yeah.
Very bright. Has the weather been good?
Yep.
Yeah, nice today.
Good. And how are you both feeling about doing this live session?
Yeah, good.
Good. And you're all right with it, Jo?
Yes, fine. Excited.
Brilliant. Well, thanks ever so much for agreeing to be one of our guests, a Stroke of Luck guest on the Friday live sessions. It's an honour to have you on. And it's great to have you on as our last guest for the month of June, what is, as I mentioned earlier, Aphasia Awareness Month. And I'm sure that we're going to be chatting about how that's affected kind of your lives over the last 7 years, because it's been 7 years that you've been a stroke survivor, Nick. And before we move on to aphasia, so this session we're going to talk about your stroke itself and how it's impacted you, and also your family. We'll talk about aphasia. And then the one thing as well I'm excited to hear about is, because of all of the phenomenal work you've done in raising money for charity, you were awarded on the honours list, the New Year's honours list, with a British Empire Medal, which is an incredible achievement. So I know we're going to move on to that, but firstly, congratulations. That's remarkable and absolutely fully deserved. But before we talk about aphasia and before we talk about your successes as a stroke survivor, can we just have a conversation about what it was like the day you had the stroke, both for you, Nick, as the person that experienced stroke themselves, and also for you, Joe, how it was like for you and your 3 children?
Okay. Do you want to go first, Nick?
Well, awful. Joe and family stroke Google. Yeah, they're the 50 years ago. Yeah,
50 years old he was.
yeah, and Northampton and Oxford and Chepstow, Northampton, Newport.
Those are the hospitals he was in. So he was in Northampton when he had the stroke.
Yeah.
You mentioned Oxford Hospital. Was that the John Radcliffe?
Yes.
Yeah.
That's where I was born. I was born in Oxford. It's a good hospital. So you certainly saw you had a tour of all of the different hospitals then.
Yes. Yeah. Yeah. Well, they're shock. They're frustrated and brain. No, nothing. And they're pop music and Coldplay and Keen and Tramp. Yeah. On and on and on.
Really?
Yeah. And the family and friends, work colleagues, and I, and
Right arm.
yeah, right arm and leg, and lost to words.
So how long were you in hospital for after you had your stroke?
6 weeks.
Yeah,
7
no,
weeks.
6 weeks.
6 weeks. 6
Yeah.
weeks. And Joe, that must have been a tremendous shock for you and your 3 children to hear that Nick had a stroke, and kind of then, what is it? How do you cope?
Yeah, well, I mean, we didn't really know what a stroke was. So, he'd gone off early that morning because he was lecturing at the time to some students in Northampton on financial planning, which is when he had the stroke. So I hadn't even seen him that morning. And then I'm in work, actually celebrating my 50th, funny enough.
Yeah.
My desk was full of balloons and stuff. And then I get a phone call
Wow.
from the paramedic saying, Nick had collapsed and, in Northampton. So I basically jumped in my car and they didn't know what it was at the time. And then I drove all the way, which is quite a long way from Bristol, all the way to Northampton. They phoned me again on the way to give me an update and tell me where he was, ward-wise. And then we got there, and obviously then I contacted the children who were actually at school. I think Gemma was probably at work, or university probably. But no, we'd never heard of a stroke, so we didn't have any idea about it at all. And then when I got there, Nick couldn't move on his right side, and he couldn't speak at all. He was just pretty comatose in the bed, really. Yeah. So it was, just a real shock. Yeah, as he said. And we were fortunate in a sense that the consultant who worked in Northampton Hospital, a friend of ours, Robert Hicks, actually. He was excellent. He took me to one side and explained everything, and also, really looked after Nick and made sure that he got everything he needed. So it was, that was just quite fortunate.
Yeah.
Of course. So the first hospital was Northampton, because that's the way you were lecturing, and then you moved. Was it then to Oxford, the John Radcliffe, after that?
Yeah, because what had happened was Nick's brain was starting to swell.
Okay.
They'd thrombolized him. So that was good, because obviously that's helped with movement coming back in your arm and your leg. not the speech, obviously. But yeah, his brain was swelling, so they basically said, right, we need to get you to Oxford. So so I'd stayed in a hotel overnight there. Then I moved myself to Oxford, followed down the ambulance, and I mean, he was in then Oxford for seven days, weren't you? And then actually that was fine. It went down and everything else. So.
Okay.
But they were worried if they had to operate,
Yeah, of course. So then from Oxford to, did you say Chepstow?
No,
Newport.
Newport.
Brent, yeah.
Yeah. I know Newport a little bit because I was at university in Cardiff. So I know the geography of that area. And that's a good hospital, isn't it? That's a really good hospital.
Yeah.
Okay.
You had a week there, and the family came up actually while we were in Oxford. So they came up on the Saturday or whatever to see you, and it was quite a surprise because Nick was still being hoisted in and out of bed at that time, so couldn't move. And so I think it was a shock, and also mushy food as you do because you can't swallow. So just probably wasn't what they were expecting as their normal chatty, jokey dad, really, with full speech. So.
Yeah, and how were your children? Because you got three. How old were they at the time when you had the stroke, Nick?
I'll have to do the maths now.
Not to put you on the spot at all.
Well, they're 23, 22 and 25 actually now. So 25, 23, 22. So 7 years ago they were,
teenagers. They're teenagers.
Yeah.
And emotionally, how did they adapt and how did they cope in kind of the immediate aftermath? Were they okay with it? Were they understanding of what had happened and what the future may look like?
Yeah, I think so. I mean, we all researched it quite a lot because we didn't really know much about it. So, they were really good helping Nick with speech and practicing with speech and things like that. And actually, our friends were really good because obviously I was away for quite a while of it because I was staying in Oxford. So friends were delivering food to the house and stuff like that, and so the kids were getting fed. So yeah, they were really supportive actually.
Yeah.
And kids are resilient as well, aren't they? They're incredibly resilient. I know my two are. My youngest, she was 8 when I had my stroke, and she's bounced back, as has she's a teenager now, but she was 12 when I had the stroke. And they really understood quite quickly, and that's why we came up as I talk every week about the green, amber, and red strategy. The green zone, amber zone, and red zone. So my 8-year-old really kind of understood how her dad was at any particular moment in time. And that really worked for us. But yeah, I'm always super impressed when I look at the children of stroke survivors and see how they've adapted to having a parent that's had a stroke, and they're just incredibly resilient. Early, yeah, absolutely. So you talked about, we know it's Aphasia Awareness Month, and you talked about, Joe, then one of the challenges that Nick faced was the loss of speech. The stroke, as well as kind of right side paralysis. Has the right side gained a good amount of movement now?
Yes.
Good. And and have you done that through kind of exercise and being active?
Yeah. The walks of the dogs and 5 miles and running and cycling. Yeah.
Lots of that.
Yeah, and cycling.
Swimming.
Yeah.
And swimming.
Yeah, swimming.
When you could.
Golf. Yeah, good.
No, that's brilliant. And for me, as you know, that's why I set up the charity. It's all about getting stroke survivors to be active, to really embrace their own recovery and rehabilitation journey. And you've clearly done that. Yeah. So aphasia, as I mentioned before you guys joined me on this live, before I had a stroke, I'm not even too sure. I went to university. I'm quite well educated, but I'm not too sure I'd ever heard of the term aphasia. Since I've had my stroke, and as I said, I'm very lucky that I didn't have that as one of the side effects of stroke. I do understand it, and I have made it my business to kind of really research how people are impacted by aphasia. And clearly for you, Nick, it's been something that's impacted you in your life as a stroke survivor. So I'm interested to hear how it's been for you over the last 7 years, both from you as the survivor and also from you, Joe. And I think you may remember that relatively recently, we covered a story of a young lady called Catherine who had aphasia, and on her 5th anniversary of celebrating her survival from a stroke, she did a broadcast for people to see, which I just found incredibly emotional and incredibly motivating as well, because I think that takes an awful lot of courage. There's been a lot of media presence around Stroke Awareness Month, and I know that you're a big advocate. I see you on Twitter all the time, and it's brilliant that you're promoting around knowledge around aphasia, and that's absolutely what's required.
Yeah.
But what has it been like for you? Because you had a high-powered job, incredibly successful man, stroke hits, and then all of a sudden you struggle with speech. How do you deal with that?
Well, the thinking, music, and strategy, and change, focus, and confident, and positivity, and focus. Positive and motivated. Yeah.
And motivated.
Yeah.
And I have seen, and I'm not going to ask you to do it now, but I have seen that you've used singing as a way to communicate. As I mentioned earlier, someone that went to university in Wales, I'm very, very familiar with the ability of Welsh choirs, Welsh male choirs, and they're brilliant. But you've used that as a coping strategy, haven't you?
Yes, and strike a chord, Cumbran, Ali, and the treasure.
Yeah, he has a real problem with numbers, and he's the treasurer of the choir. So,
Okay.
but he does it. It's fine.
Yeah, the singing and Welsh songs, and everyone. Yeah, the focused. Yeah.
Yeah, it's incredible. When you post your singing and the songs that you are singing on Twitter, I love listening to them, because it is incredible. To think where you were 7 years ago to now being able to sing, it's remarkable, absolutely remarkable. And how does that feel, Joe, as his wife? You must be incredibly proud of him.
Yeah, I mean, the choir's been fantastic, because it is a choir for stroke survivors, and some of them have got speech, some of them got other things. But it's just a way of them all coming together, socialising, and working on something common to them. And Nick's really good. We said he should sing more than speak. Because actually, when he can sing it, because it is a different side of the brain. Whereas speech is is the left side of the brain. Singing is the right side of the brain. So he's been done really well, and done some solos, and posted some stuff. Brave enough to post stuff. So
Twitter,
it's good.
Yeah.
It's really good. And I've just seen a few comments coming up. So kind of say aphasia, saying there's 350,000 people in the UK affected by aphasia from a brain injury or from a stroke. John, who was on last week, and I know that you were on and you watched John and Ellie, saying that Ellie also sings to put her point across. So clearly singing, as you say, it's a different part of the brain. What a great way to facilitate communicating. Absolutely brilliant way of achieving it. Yeah.
Poems, but yeah.
And even in the virtual lockdown, the choir is still meeting every week, and they have their list of songs, and they all do it virtually now through Zoom. But they're still singing every week, which is great, because obviously keeping it going. it
is. And Paul, who was a guest of a stroke like a couple of weeks ago, has just said his 18 would run away if he started singing, and I think mine might too. But actually, away from this live, because I'm not going to embarrass myself, I'll have a singing lesson from you, Nick, and we'll take on a Welsh song from my to reminisce on my days back in Cardiff in university. We'll definitely do that. So with the speech and then the challenges, how, Joe, were the children with that? You said that they kind of helped and coached and supported. Have they continued to do that, and have they been a really, really good support for Nick?
Yeah, absolutely. So in the early days, it was about repetition and practice and that type of thing, because we didn't really know much about it. So we did actually go and, we did have some speech therapy. And then we actually went to see a private speech therapist as well. And she introduced us to some apps and things that Nick still, used, which really helped. And then we found another app as well, didn't we, that you used regularly. And, the kids would help him with that, and we could gradually start building up sentences.
Yeah.
walk the dog and, you know, go swimming in the pool, and things like that. So yeah, they would practice with you, because initially you could only say church, child, you know, really things.
Basic.
But you know, we used pictures. We did pictures. If you show pictures of family and things like that, then you can start to.
Yeah.
That was really helpful to say, oh, you know, remember things, and then start to practice.
Yeah.
No, absolutely.
Phoenix Project, and 3 years Phoenix, and the Chepstow, Monmouth, and Aphasia Awareness, and cafes, and 6 years ago, people, practice, and the apps, and the news, and yeah, good.
That's incredible. Absolutely incredible. So have you gone back to work during the time since your stroke? No.
Well, the speech conference, good, and singing, good.
Yeah, because he was in the chartered financial planners, he couldn't really go back to do his chief exec role, because obviously that involved speaking and that sort of thing. But then they did invite you to they held a conference at the Celtic Manor, and Nick went along because they all know him because they're all financial planners, and he went along and did a speech, didn't you? And then you also sang a song.
Yeah,
2 songs, I think. Yeah, there were 200 people.
Yeah. And
200 people, wow.
Yeah, and the Bring It Home and Walk Alone.
You'll never walk alone. Mm.
Yes.
Fantastic. Which is quite poignant. Are you a Liverpool fan, are you, Nick?
Yeah.
Okay, so it's quite a poignant song for what happened then yesterday evening. So moving away from stroke, how have you celebrated? Did you open up a bottle when Chelsea scored the penalty for you to then become league champions for the first time in 30 years?
Wine.
Fantastic. Well, I think well deserved. Liverpool have been the best team in the Premier League by an awful long way this season. I'm a big Spurs fan. Spurs and Oxford United. My team are sliding down the league as yours are moving up. But yeah, congratulations on that, and a well-deserved celebration. So since your stroke, you haven't gone back to work for completely understandable reasons. And it looks to me, you know, I've followed you on Twitter ever since I had my stroke. And, you know, I'm really privileged to be in a position now to be having this live with you. And as I said at the beginning, and I'll say again, thank you ever so much. It's an honour to have you on. To see the work that you've done since your stroke, I'm in awe of. You've raised over £120,000 for a range of charities. You talked about the activities in which you participated in to support your recovery from stroke. And I know cycling is a big one for you.
Yeah.
In the New Year birthday or in the New Year's honours list, the most recent years, you were awarded the British Empire Medal for your raising of funds for these charities. And these small charities and the big charities are reliant upon people like you to support, a stroke of luck being an example, to support us in the work that we're trying to do.
Yeah.
So firstly, well done. It's an incredible achievement. And secondly, what was it like? How did you find out that you were on the New Year's honours list? How did that come about?
Yes, the Jess and Jones and the niece and the post. Oh, yeah. Oh, gosh.
So we'd submitted it, Jess and our niece put it in, and then I'd seen it as well. So I knew it was going in, and then, you got a letter in the post.
Yeah.
That's incredible. And how did it make you feel?
Yeah, proud. Yeah. And they're knocked down, no
party.
no party.
Yeah, that's the shame of it, isn't it? This year with lockdown, you can't get to celebrate in the gardens, which I'm sure every other year people have been able to do. But you never know; they may do something for those that have been on this year, next year. Who knows?
Yeah, I think they're going to do it next year. Yeah.
But Joe, for you, you look at your husband. I'd imagine in complete admiration. 7 years ago, having a stroke, not been able to speak, then all of a sudden over this 7-year journey has raised an incredible amount of money for charity, and then, rewarded for that, rightly so. How do you feel about that? That you're sat next to somebody with a British Empire medal?
Yes, I know. Very proud. You know, I mean, he's very. You know, he did say very positive, motivated. You know, Nick always had, you know, great sense of humour, still has. You know, and you know, he is very, you know, determined. And luckily is very positive though, because some people who have a stroke sometimes don't necessarily have that mindset. But Nick's always been, you know, it happened, but I've just got to get on with it. You know, and so he's really approached it in a way that you want to make a difference. Yeah, and he's taken on all sorts of challenges, like cycling, which he hates running, but he's done all of these things, you know. So really proud of him, and he's just determined to raise the profile and raise funds and keep going, really.
Yeah, and I'm seeing on the feed here, there's lots of clapping hands, and rightly so, because it's incredible. And just to pick up on your point there, Joe, you're absolutely right to say not everybody is like Nick. You know, when they come through that stroke journey, not everybody is positive about it, and that's you know, you'll have heard, and people that have listened to me before, it's a fundamental reason why I started A Stroke of Luck. You know, we have people that have had a stroke and unfortunately through their mindset identify as a stroke victim, so they don't see a positive future ahead. And then you have people like Nick, and you have people like Ellie, you know, from last week, and Paul, and I'd like to consider myself as somebody that considers themselves as a stroke survivor. And our charity has been set up to try and support people to move from the negative status and negative perception of having a stroke through to the positive, because life isn't over for us. We've had a stroke. It's just a different life, but we've still got a lot of value to add to this world. And that's, you know, the best example of that is you, Nick, what you've done over the last 7 years. You know, you've created wealth for charities that otherwise didn't have that money through your experience of having a stroke, and then you continue to be such an advocate of stroke survivors. It's remarkable. It really is remarkable.
Thank you.
No, you deserve it. You deserve every reward and every award that comes your way. What were the kids like when they found out you were going to be a BEM? Were the kids proud?
Yes. Yeah, really proud. Yeah.
And good.
And have you got the medal?
No.
Not yet.
Yes, lockdown. Yeah.
Not yet.
Yeah.
Okay. Is there anything else that you would like to add to this live session that you'd like people to hear?
You want to say?
Yeah. Well, kind, helpful, and smile.
Yeah.
Three great words. And I think it's really important, you know, always to be kind, support one another. Absolutely. So have you got many plans for this weekend? What's the weather looking like down with you?
I think the
Rain.
rain's coming. Yeah. It's gone dark.
Yeah. It doesn't look particularly great here either, forecast for the weekend.
Yeah, I think it could be, well, we'll just have a family weekend at home, you know, so nice food and just chill out.
Yeah.
It's gone
Absolutely.
dark.
No, absolutely. Well, it's been an absolute pleasure to chat to you both. Thank you so much for joining me on this live session. I really appreciate it. I'm absolutely certain those that have been watching this session will have got a lot from you, Nick. You're an incredible man, and you're an inspiration to stroke survivors, and most notably to those that do experience and suffer from aphasia. So keep doing the good work.
Yeah.
Let's make sure we stay in touch, and I hope when the world gets back to some sort of normal, we can share a glass of wine one day.
Yes.
And we'll talk about football, but only when Spurs start to get better again.
Yeah.
Yes.
Well, thank you ever so much, both of you. I really appreciate your time, and enjoy your Friday evening.
Thank you. Thanks very much. Thanks for
Take care.
Bye.
Thanks, Craig.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Okay, wow. What a brave man, and what a courageous man to do what he's done in the last 7 years since Nick's stroke. To come on and do a live session, I think I think brave is the right word. It's incredibly inspirational to see somebody that's gone through the trauma and the change in life that Nick has done, to be able to come on and do a session like that with the confidence and the gusto that he did. Remarkable. And the money that he's raised for charity over the last 7 years, I run a very, very small charity, Win You. That sort of money that he's raised is incredible for the ability for charities like A Stroke of Luck to be able to continue to do the work that we're trying to do to support survivors in life after stroke. So if any of you are inspired by Nick, inspired by what he's done to create a revenue for stroke charities, then I would just really urge you to go out there and do it. And of course, I'd like you to do something for A Stroke of Luck, but there are lots of worthy charities out there who do need support, especially in these current times. Anyway, looking forward to the weekend. I hope all of you are too. Thank you ever so much for joining us on this live session. And I look forward to seeing you all again next Friday. Okay? Have a great weekend and take care. Bye now.